Hello traders, and welcome back to another video. Thunderbolt here, and this is the weekly outlook video. So it's been another successful week of trading. So if you watched our previous weekly outlook video, the one that came out last week, then you'd see that everything we called out actually played out as we expected. And of course, we had some really nice entries in our community. So coming into this week, we want to also look at the market and see what is in store for us, and see if we can also see some nice opportunities right here with you. As usual, we start with our usual culprit, that is the DXY, the dollar. Then look at the other majors, that is EU, GU, and then gold. So without further ado, let's get started. So we start on the weekly time frame. And what do we have on the weekly time frame? Of course, we have sell side taken, where we usually start. All right, we have this CSD over here. Okay, this CSD over here. All right, because this is the last series of down close candles that took out this liquidity, and we just closed above. So now I can expect DXY for future bullish expansion. Okay. Now, if we look closer to how last week closed based on the model that I trade, okay, so you can see we left some relative equal highs at this point. We left a swing point at this point, which I'd expect to get targeted. So which means we closed as an inside candle. Okay, so allow me to delete that. So we closed as an inside candle, which means we closed inside of the range of the previous week. That is the week of 9th March. Okay, so after taking out all this liquidity from the model that we trade, okay, so we took out external range liquidity at this point. What do we know? Now we're headed back to internal range. And where's the next internal range? It is this. We have a really nice fair value gap at this point that we could actually target on the weekly time frame. So what I can actually expect is, either if you're going to reverse to take out this high, we need to see this low taken out because we closed as an inside candle. And what do we know about inside candles? Just represent consolidations on a lower time frame. Okay, because we expect that the market, the logic is the market traded only inside of this range, which means we do not break out to the upside or to the downside. So if you're actually going to trade higher, I'd expect one of two things. Either we take out this low, okay, previous weekly low, and trade higher, all right, or we continue to trade lower, all right, into this fair value gap, okay, and then trade higher. That would actually be my logic. But let's look at the daily time frame for more price action. So allow me to clear all this. So this is the previous weekly low. Okay. So I remember at some point we had this as SMT lows, but now these relative equal lows could actually be really interesting to target. Okay. So now that we know this is liquidity, all right, so we have a few liquidity points. We have liquidity number 1 and liquidity number 2 that we might actually want to target. So now what I would actually want to see, especially after we had this really huge candle momentum, all right, in as much as it looks like we came into this fair value gap, all right, I'd still expect a bit of more price action, okay, at least to the discount of the weekly range, okay. And you can see that fair value gap comes really close to 50%. If we can also use this as our range, all right, it comes into discount. So this is what I'd want to see. Either we take out this low to trade higher, especially also because on the daily, if you look at the daily, the previous daily candle, which was on Friday, we also closed with an inside candle, okay, which also shows a consolidation. So if you're actually going to trade lower, I'd want to see one thing. We open high, okay, take out this high to form a swing point to trade lower. But if we open and trade lower, so if we want to trade lower, what I'd want to see, open high, low close, swing point to continue trading lower. That is expectation number one. Expectation number two, we open at this point, trade lower, take out this liquidity, swing point, and then close inside of the range, and then continue to look for trades to take out this liquidity. Okay, so that is one of two things that I'd want to see when the market opens next week. But ideally, I'd want us to come to this weekly fair value gap. So I'm more in favor of shorts on the DXY, temporary shorts on the DXY. Let's go to EU. So again, on the weekly time frame, what do we have? Sweep of buy side liquidity. All right. We close nicely below this series of down close candles, which means that trend has now shifted bearish because we also inverse this fair value gap. All right. So we inverse this fair value gap really nicely. And an inverse fair value gap combined with a bearish fair value gap is a sign of order flow shift. Okay. So which means when we form this bullish fair value gap, buyers were in control. Now you can see the fair value gap, the bullish fair value gap was violated, and we actually left bearish fair value gap, okay, which is a sign of order flow shift. All right. So now looking at how the market closed the previous week, you can see the market only traded inside of the range of the previous week. Same as we saw on DXY, all right? And these lows are not SMT lows, okay? So now what do we have? Now, again, we took out this bunch of liquidity at this point. So we see we took out this liquidity. Did we take out this? Let's see. No, we did not, but we can expect that this is liquidity we can actually come to target or take on later on, all right? So now, looking at the previous weekly candle, how we closed, it is more likely that we come to this fair value gap as our internal range liquidity, all right, then take out this. So again, I'd prefer more buys to the upside into this fair value gap. So I want to see the market open, trade lower. Okay, just a minute, sorry. So I want to see the market open at this point, trade lower, okay, and open low, high close candle into this fair value gap, again trade lower, okay, to continue with our trend. So with that in mind, let's see what we expect on the daily time frame. So what I know is I want to see more buys, okay, at least temporary buys, and expect to form the high of the week inside of this, not particularly inside of this fair value gap per se, but I still expect to trade higher. It could be in one weekly candle, or it could be in a few weekly candles. Okay, but at least I expect the market to continue up to the upside until we reach that fair value gap. Daily time frame. This is how we close on the daily. Allow me to delete that weekly order block. So this is what we have on the daily time frame, and you can see the kind of momentum that we had on Thursday. After this huge expansion, we entered into the next phase of price, which was a consolidation, which is very normal. So after this consolidation, which means an inside buy is an indication of a consolidation, which means this is a range, and we want to see one side of the range get taken out. Okay, if we are actually going to continue higher. So if you're going to continue higher, I'd want the low of this range to get taken out. All right. But if we also have SMTs within this, then that would actually be really interesting. So either the range high or the range low, but I'd favor the range low to get taken out, swing point to continue higher into this weekly fair value gap. All right. And this fair value gap is also nice because we have this high over here, which will actually be our order pairing high, same as on DXY. Where we have an order pairing low inside of that, just below the weekly fair value gap, bearish fair value gap. All right. So this is what I want to see. I'd want to see more buys on Euro USD. And if I am going to actually be trading this, then I want to see some sort of sweep so that I can trade higher into this bearish fair value gap. If you go to the 1 hour time frame, you can clearly see this is a range. Okay, so you can clearly see the market is in a range. So on the 1 hour time frame, it sort of looks like we took out some liquidity, but still a range. So I'd still want to see how see more price action develop so that I can actually be interested in doing anything. Let's go to GU. Again, weekly time frame. Again, sweep of buy side. Close below the last series of up close candles into that sweep. Okay. So we don't necessarily have a fair value gap. We have one all the way up here, which we could come back to or not. It's a bit small and it's also a bit too far. But if we can also look at order flow, I'd expect the market to come at least somewhere in the range of this inversion. Okay. So we have some nice failure swings over here, which could be really easy to target. But we are also not disputing the fact that we can also come all the way here. It is all a matter of probabilities. Okay. So we left some nice liquidity around here. And also something else, another criteria we use for valid swing points or where we expect the market to retrace for, it should either be in discounts or in premium. So this time we're looking for premium. So I'd still want to see the market come to this range, to this fair value gap on the internal side of the market. But one thing you need to know about correlated assets, if the market reaches the fair value gap on EU or the bullish fair value gap on DXY, the market could just retrace. Okay, so I'd be more interested in these relatively equal highs at this point for the market to actually reach into and then trade lower. So again, what I'm expecting is an open low, high close candle. Okay, take out this and then be looking for sales to continue, for the market to continue to the downside. If you look at the daily time frame, again, same thing. We don't have any fair value gaps on the daily time frame. Don't have any fair value gaps on the daily time frame. Of course, you can see GU is a bit weaker, unlike EU that looks really strong. But the model still remains the same, and the concept and what we're actually looking for, the idea basically. We closed as an inside bar inside of the range of Thursday, which is the next phase of price. So I want to see the range low taken if I'm going to actually trade higher. If we open and take the range high first, then I'd want to see this high taken first and then look for sales instead of buys. So if I'm actually going to engage next week, I want to see an open low, high close. Okay, so I want to see either Monday or Tuesday form the low of the week to trade higher prices into this high. Okay, but if we open and trade higher and take out the range high, then I'd want to see this high taken first before I can look for sales. Basically, that's the whole idea. If you look at 1 hour, I can delete this. You can see this sort of looks doesn't look like a range as much. Okay, but same thing. I'd want to see this low taken out as my order pairing low. Okay, so I'd want to see something like that. Potentially a CSD to continue trading high. We look at gold. And if there's anything I've been quite, or rather been really accurate in predicting or calling out price, has been gold. All right. So gold has been really bearish. I know with everything going on, everyone thought that the market was actually coming to look at this. So trying to focus a lot or too much on fundamentals and not looking at what the technicals are actually doing. So you can see this is a lot of bearishness. Okay, so after we formed this swing point at this point, you can see we've had 2 weeks of expansion. And I remember on this last week, we've dropped more than 5% on gold. So now, where is the next place that we're actually heading? One thing I can actually expect is we take out this low. After we take out this low, I'd want to see a bit more price action to see what actually develops. If you go back to the daily time frame, you can see this swing low looks really relevant. Actually, this low looks like a really major liquidity point. So after we take out this, I'd want to see a reversal. All right. So coming into this next week, what do I want to see? I want to see an open high, low close candle into taking out this. So if the market just opens lower and takes out this low and starts to reverse, then I'd probably be looking for a swing point on the daily time frame. Okay, I'd probably look for a swing point on the daily time frame to trade prices higher. That will be an external to internal range liquidity. Okay, so if we do something like that, if we open and take out this and form a swing point at this point, then I'd probably look for price to come into this fair value gaps, which is where I'll want to trade price back into. Okay. And as it is, price is already overextended. Okay, so this is also not a very good price action for me. So the last trade I had was at this point after we had this swing point, and I was able to trade this candle lower. But now after this candle and this one, so I was not able to trade the Friday candle lower. So what I like to see is fresh swing points. So what I'll do is either the market trades higher into this first. Okay, so either that or this, preferably this one. Okay, so if the market opens and trades higher into this, sorry, just a minute. If the market opens and trades higher, then I'll be able to trade lower to target this. Okay, but preferably if the market opens high and trades low and takes out this swing point, I'll not be interested in this move as much. I'll be interested in the retracement if there will be one, probably back into internal range, either this fair value gap or this. So that is what I have on gold. I'll definitely be looking at silver and XAU euro for SMT. So if you guys enjoyed this weekly outlook video, kindly help me by liking the video, subscribe, and you can also share. If you want to see more of the execution side, please feel free to join the community. The link is actually on the description, and I hope to see you there.